Hi, I'm Hazel. I'm a chiropractor, yoga and breathwork instructor, and today I'm going to talk you through core activation. So the core are a deep set of muscles that we all have surrounding our spine that help us to stay upright and also protect the spine. And very often, if you've been suffering with back pain, it might be really helpful to facilitate, wake up those muscles, and in some cases to strengthen them as well. So the first thing we'll do, just on a real beginner level, is to try and find those muscles. Because they're very deep in there and they can be quite hard sometimes to know if you're working them or not. So to start off with, have a feel into your belly, which I know can be a bit weird for some people. And I want you to start to draw your belly inwards. So I'm actively sucking the belly in to start towards my spine. As you do that, notice if you start to hold your breath. So what a lot of people do is they draw in and they go, and that's not actually what we want. So this doesn't affect your breath. We're just drawing your belly in very slightly. So possibly like a 10 to 20% of effort. And there's a gentle feeling of drawing in, relatively low in the belly, not enough that you can't talk. It should be quite an easy level to maintain. If you're not sure if you're doing it, get someone to give you a little shove, and there should be a little bit of resistance there. So if someone goes to shove you and you're literally rigid, then you're holding in too much. So often what could be quite good is to maximally draw in without holding the breath, and then maybe let it go, and then probably let it go a tiny bit more, and that is probably about a 10% hold. And that's just a facilitation hold of the core. We're just waking up those muscles. You could do that during the day, particularly when you're sat down or walking around, and you're just starting to get those muscles to be activated. The next stage is to actually strengthen those muscles. So then we will take it beyond that 10% pull-in. Just to emphasize, with that little core hold, it should not be restricting your breath. And you should still be able to take full and deep breaths with a little bit of gentle belly movement throughout the day, but still have that little bit of tone in the belly. So the next exercise we'll do on our back. You can have a little thin cushion under your head for comfort if that helps. And you'll need to have your knees bent. And again, let's pop our hands onto the belly if you feel happy to for a little bit of feedback. And we need to find pelvic neutral to begin. So a lot of these concepts come from Pilates, if you've ever done any classes in that before. And the version I'll be showing you is to do this exercise in pelvic neutral. So to start with, let's see what our pelvic neutral is. So the first cue is to flatten your low back as far downwards into the floor as you can. And to do that, I'm posterior back tilting. And then if you try and arch your low back up away from the ground, you'll be taking the pelvis into a slight anterior front tilt. And then the trick is to try and find the balance between those two tilts, which will be your neutral spine. So try tuck in, then arch in, and then relaxing in the middle. So in this relaxed position, your rib cage should not be flared, and the pelvis feels in a down relaxed position. And for most of us, we'll have a slight gap. So if I push my hand under the low back, I've got a slight gap there, which you probably can't see that easily. But some people might have more of a gap, and that's okay. And throughout this exercise, what I would encourage you to do is to maintain your gap. So it's not about increasing or decreasing that gap as we go along. And that'll become a little bit more clear now. So to start the exercise, I'm consciously doing that drawing like I showed you just now. I'm going to keep one hand on my belly just for a little bit of feedback. Keeping that belly drawn in, I'm going to lift up one leg, taking it to pretty much 90 degrees with the knee above the hip. With that leg lifted, there's a little bit more load on the core here. So there might be a slight tendency to start to let that go. And the feeling, if you do let it go, will be that the arch will increase in your low back. So we want to keep that feeling of drawing in. With this leg here, have a little go at extending it away and see if you can keep the belly pulled in, but most importantly, your breath continuing. As the leg comes in, this effort will feel a bit easier. the leg goes away, it gets a little harder. I've got a little bit more effort now to keep the belly in. As the leg comes back, it feels a little bit easier. So that's just to start to get that feeling. And if you find this a little bit challenging, this will be the level that you will start with. So one leg at a time, gently extending, coming back in whilst breathing, not holding your breath. If that's a little bit too tricky, you could have the foot on the ground, slide the leg away and slide it back in, keeping some tone in your belly, and then alternate. So then slide the other leg away and slide it back in. If you've gone through this round, you think, yeah, I can do that. Yes, I can breathe at the same time. And yet I feel like I'm not arching my low back. Then let's continue to the next stage. So again, let's reset. Drawing in, lift one leg at a time to 90 degrees. And then we'll have a go at lifting up the other leg. And now, it's a little bit more tricky. We're trying to keep our breath deep and full. But I'm holding in the belly. Holding for maybe 2 more breaths. And then one leg at a time down, and then the other leg. If you've got any pain in your low back, stop. This exercise should not give you discomfort in your low back. That is not how it's designed. We will be working some of those muscles, but that won't be the sensation that you will feel. So if there's any pain, you need to stop. Do some stretches, maybe come back later. But if you're finding it's giving you low back pain, this is not for you. And it may be a little bit difficult for you to activate that core. If you're using your core, it shouldn't hurt your back. It should be a feeling deep in the muscles, and you should find that this is staying stable throughout the exercise. So again, if you tried that, we could go a little longer. So you lead with the leg, one leg at a time, lifting up, holding, keeping the breath, just breathing in and out, all relaxed, keeping the core in, and again, one leg down, one leg down. So if that's quite challenging, maybe doing 3 to 4 breaths, you will stay at that level. You could build that up to say 5 to 6 relaxed breaths, and always come up one leg at a time down. Again, if you're feeling comfortable with that, I'm going to take you to the next level, which is the tap downs. So again, I'm going to reset. I'm drawing in the belly to begin. I lift up the leg to 90 degrees, holding in, and then I lift up again. And this time I slowly tap one foot down and then slowly back up and then alternate. So my breath is continuing. Some people prefer to time the breath. So say breathing in and then breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. If that feels too confusing though, don't worry. You don't have to time the breath, but you do have to be breathing. And of course you have to be keeping this core held in. If again you notice your arch increases or decreases, then you know you're trying to recruit other muscles to help you. What have I done? Probably maybe 8 reps there. So when I finish, take one leg down and then the other and rest. Don't do too many in one go. It would be better to keep the quality really good, reps relatively low, but then you could always repeat another set. So the same, you might be coming up, leading with one leg, drawing in, and then slowly tapping down. And then there are other add-ons. Only, again, if you're doing this slow and controlled, you feel like the breath is deep and full, you're keeping the core nice and strong, and then you might decide that actually you extend the leg out instead. Might be extending the leg away. You might find that actually you can move both at the same time. I'm not going to show you any using the head and neck today just because there's a lot of consideration with that. But you really can develop lots of different options with what you do with the lower body. You can get the arms involved. The point is, it doesn't actually matter. What does matter is the breath and that core activation. Have a go. Careful as you're coming up afterwards. And it could be quite nice to take a couple of stretches. I quite like this one when you're seated, just taking the knees side to side. And feel free to repeat whichever option you found useful, 3 to 4 sets. And then ideally, if you really want to be getting that core a little bit stronger, you would be repeating this exercise at least every other day. So aiming for at least 3 times a week. Any questions as ever, get in touch. Otherwise, take care. Thanks.